Is it hard for you to make your list?
Yeah. Because I mostly avoided bad movies this year.
See, that's your big mistake.
That's my huge mistake for doing these. So mine's going to be more of the biggest meh movies of the year, or at least the first half. So I structured it in an interesting way. I made it where it's like, it started off like the meh movies, like that was underwhelming or that wasn't that good, whatever. And then they get to bad, this is just bad. And then the higher up you go, they're kind of so bad, they're good. So
I've got some of those.
Yeah. So that's my rating system this time, because I couldn't just do straight up bad, because I don't think I saw enough bad movies this year.
Oh, all of mine, terrible.
Okay.
They're all to see. There's your big mistake. You got to watch all of the VOD movies.
Like your number 10's going to be my number 1.
Maybe if you saw this movie. Yeah. We're 2 weeks into January. I just watched American Siege the other day. I've already got a contender for worst of the year. It's early in the year. That'll probably be my number 10 next year.
So like I said, this one is more, it's just an underwhelming movie. Annette. Did you see that movie?
Annette. I don't think I did.
It is a bizarre musical that you'll either love or hate. I think you would hate.
I loved Cats.
So this is one of those. Imagine if Cats was like somebody's doing almost like a self-aware like parody that's also supposed to be taken seriously. Yeah. In a strange way. It's one of those abstract movies where it's something like what's a good example? Syracuse, New York, or it's like a Charlie Kaufman movie. Okay. Which I know you have kind of a love-hate with sometimes.
Yeah, I love some of his.
Yeah. But this is definitely like, it's very abstract. The very loose plot that there is that there's these two entertainers. They fall in love, they get married, and they have a kid. The kid is literally a puppet. Like a marionette puppet. Yeah. It just already gives you an idea kind of the movie you're in. Mm-hmm. And the puppet, I think, can sing. She has like this operatic voice, just born with this operatic voice. He kills the mother, I think just from a fight or something like that, or he wants the money he can make from the puppet child, himself, and sort of takes her on tour and stuff, and also sells like, the death of the wife thing, and stuff like that. And honestly, all of that I'm kind of sold on. And like I said, a good chunk of this movie I'm weirdly enjoying, and I like there's a weird way you can interpret it. But it's another one of those films where it's like, it's something like, at least it felt like 2.5 to 3 hours. And it doesn't need to be. Right. That is the one thing about like a lot of films, like you get like a David Lynch or something like that, where for the most part I think they do it a fair amount, and when a scene needs to keep playing, they let it play the amount of time it should play. But then there's those that just let it go on so long, and you get the idea, you know what they're doing, you understand it, and they just keep going. They just keep hammering it in, and I'm like, God damn it. There's one scene, I think it opens up after the song sequence of Adam Driver. He's doing like, he's giving his background, but he's doing it like a stand-up comedian, but like a shock jock stand-up comedian kind of thing. So it's almost like a stand-up meets Tom Cruise from Magnolia.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, and that's kind of cool, but he's also like an artiste, so it's also like kind of pretentious and stuff. It's like, okay, that's entertaining, and it just goes on forever, and they cut back to it a lot. Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm like, this is a good idea, but it just is too far kind of up its own ass. So it's hard for me to say, no, this is bad. But it was underwhelming because, man, this could have been, like, a really cool experience. Like, they're trying to create an experience, but it just goes on way too long with these scenes, where after you get the point.
Well, I'm sold on any description that starts with, imagine if Cats... No need to finish the sentence. I'm already going to check this out. My number 10 is a musical, too.
Oh, is it?
It is. It's called Music. Remember this movie?
Oh, my God! I wanted to see this!
Oh, you gotta see this movie.
I so wanted to see this!
There are some movies on my bottom 10 where I'm always like, really, you should see this more than some of them on my top 10.
I really wanted to see it. I forgot this movie existed.
I forgot about it too until I saw it make some other worst stuff lists. I'm like, oh yeah, man, that's going on mine. I saw that movie, the Sia movie with the girl who has autism, but played in a way that's like you're watching an old comedy sketch. And it's not like, oh, if this movie came out 30 years ago, it would have gotten great reviews. Then you watch it now and you're like, well, maybe the casting would be different now. Oh no, this would have been terrible 30 years ago.
Yeah.
This would have been like Square Dance with Rob Lowe, where you're like, he shouldn't be playing this. And so, but it was not boring, because every now and then they just inject musical numbers and like music video sequences into the movie.
I mean, it is called music.
It is, yeah. Well, that's also the girl's name. It works out. She like
That's her name.
that's her name in the movie. Of course it is.
Oh my god.
I think that's usually the case with movies like this. It's like they'll have some title that's not a name, but it's the character's name.
Yeah.
Radio.
You're right. Or a book, I Am Sam, or something.
Yeah, exactly. And it's my number 10 because of all the movies on my bottom 10. It's probably the most well made. It is well shot. The music video scenes are well done. Kate Hudson's really good in it. She's acting her ass off in this. Technically, the main girl's acting her ass off, but is given the wrong direction.
I used to hate movies like that because, for the reasons everybody kind of hated, because, I mean, we were around the time when I Am Sam or The Other Sister and all these were like, isn't that good? You know, like, that's really good, right? And then something happened around, like, with Tropic Thunder and, like, was it Simple Jack or whatever, that came out to mock it, and everyone kind of became self-aware. Now, I love watching those movies, because everyone is aware, and we can point and be like, oh man, isn't that so funny? But it sounds like this works on an even different level outside of that.
It's one of those movies, like, all of these movies have, like, a line where someone's like, truly it was them teaching us. Like, I'm sure this one's got one, too.
You introduced me to one, what's the one with Rosie O'Donnell?
Oh, riding the bus with my sister.
Oh my god, just watching the clips of that is like, masterpiece.
Yeah.
I love how awful it is.
You could have a triple feature with that movie, music, throw The Other Sister in there,
oh my God.
the Rob Lowe movie I mentioned.
Sold. We're gonna do a movie night, man. Just
yeah, we are. We probably shouldn't do a first viewing video.
No, probably not.
Or we do, it's just for us.
Number 9 is Matrix Resurrections. Again, just a meh movie.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. I didn't even really get into the original Matrix movies that much, but I got angry at this one because I loved the first third, and it tricked me. It made me think this was going to be like New Nightmare or something like that, where it's going to be like, it's going to be kind of abstract. Did this happen? Did it not? Or like 12 Monkeys, where is this something where, is he really time traveling or is he not in 12 Monkeys? With this, did the Matrix really happen, or was it just this guy, you know, fantasizing all this? And even down to the point when the therapist is saying, well, isn't this kind of like, you know, a little narcissistic when you think about you're the one, and, you know, that this beautiful woman, you know, just loves you just because you're born special and you're born the one and stuff. And it's like, this is ingenious because it's pointing out the flaws of the original story. You know, from a person that has gone through this, you know, big transition, you know, Lana, Wachowski? Yeah. And that's one of those things where I'm like, it kind of becomes even more fascinating to me. Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss are legit acting in the first third. I really believe their chemistry. They're interesting. They have actual conversations, not just talking about philosophy or what the mission is or something like that. And I said to myself, man, if they do this the whole way through, and maybe only at the end do they reveal if it's real or not, even though I give it much more credit if they didn't reveal it. But I'm like, I might love this. This might be my favorite Matrix movie. Mm-hmm. And then at the 1/3 point, they're like, no, we're just a Matrix film. And it goes right to the usual stuff. And even with the usual stuff, it's not as good as the other ones. The action's not as good. And the story wasn't quite as interesting. I thought some of the stuff in Zion was a little interesting, like the working with the machines, but not enough to hold my interest. So, yeah, I just thought it was really underwhelming, but it annoyed me because it was actually sucking me in for a little bit there.
The first act was the best. I liked it, was the best part of it. I liked it better than some other people did, but it's one of those where I'm like, yeah, I see all the flaws in it. It totally. Even when I was watching it, I was like, this is gonna be divisive. We got out, and Laura was like, I didn't like that. I'm like, yeah, I think this is gonna be divisive because I liked it way better than she did. But the first half was the strongest.
Did she like the first act at all, or no?
Yeah, I think she thought that was interesting, and then the more it went along, she was just kind of getting confused by it, and it wasn't grabbing her as much. With me, yeah, that first third, I was like writing the A category on it. And then after that, I'm like, yeah, now it's just kind of turning into a sequel, and that lowered the grade a bit. But there was bits in it here and there I was still really enjoying.
Yeah, and there definitely are moments where it winks a little too hard. I mean, definitely. But, like, majority of that first third, I'm with you. I was like, I don't know, this is still interesting. I can still see, I love watching a movie and saying, man, I could believe either. I could believe The Matrix is a real thing, or it's all in this guy's head. And I adored that. Either felt plausible, that it was such a letdown when they had to say, no, it was real, and all the interpretive stuff, you don't get to interpret that anymore.
Yeah.
It's just, no, it's all baloney, here's the real deal, and there's no way you can interpret the other 2/3 as it might be in his mind. It's like, no, it all has to be real, unless whatever the next movie retcons that, which I don't think they're going to.
I doubt it.
If there's
Maybe
even a
20
next movie.
years. Keanu Reeves will still look the same in 20 years. He gets in better shape as he gets older.
Yeah.
He'll look crazy in 20 years. My number 9, so Home Sweet Home Alone's not on my list. It's on a lot of other lists. It's not on mine, even though it was pretty bad.
I thought it was going to be.
Pups Alone.
Pups Alone, yeah.
It's Pups Alone. Pups Alone was worse. Pups Alone was worse than Home Sweet Home Alone. Yeah, Pups Alone is the movie where Dolph Lundgren is trying to steal an invention because this suburban dad makes an invention that's a magic the collar from Up, where the dogs can then magically talk with this collar. So he gets 2 bumbling crooks, of course, to break into the house when they're all gone. And the dogs set up traps. It's Pups Alone. Do I need to keep describing the plot? Of course you know what this is. The dogs are in the house. They talk to each other. They set up traps for the world's dumbest crooks who go in and see like a taco machine on the counter. And
wouldn't it have been so much better if the crooks were cats, like literally cat burglars?
Exactly.
Get Chaplin and Lloyd in there. They would love that.
I mean, I think there are like 12 cats and dogs movies on video on demand, so maybe one of those sequels has that plot. But no, like, they'll see, they've already gotten injured several times, but they're still like, ooh, a taco stand on the counter. Don't mind if I do. And then, I don't know, it shocks them or some shit. It was too long for a movie called Pups Alone. Yeah, that was like I was already not in a good mood when I watched it. It was like the 4th movie I had to watch that day. I wasn't feeling Pups Alone, but it would still be bad even if it was the only movie I watched that day.
You might be the only 40-year-old man to ever say that. I wasn't feeling Pups Alone.
I wasn't feeling it. Maybe because I was watching it at home. If I got the theatrical experience.
Yeah, you have to see on the big screen.
Yeah.
It just totally changes everything.
I am curious, though, like, since one of the dog voices is Malcolm McDowell, who was...
He was in one of them. He was in the one I just reviewed, yeah.
The 5th one, was it? Yeah, so now I'm just sort of curious which is the worst Malcolm McDowell Home Alone type movie.
Which one is canon? Which one do I follow?
Yeah, there's no cameos in this one at all. Well, except for voice cameos. You got Rob Schneider as one of the dogs, because why wouldn't that be the case?
Yeah, even if he wasn't in a Home Alone movie, he'd still be one of the dogs.
Yeah, he would be one of the dogs.
My number 8 is Spyro from the Book of Saw.
We did see that.
Yeah, it was the first movie we saw back in the theater.
It was, yeah.
Still wasn't that good. And part of it is I'm not a huge Saw guy to begin with. Mm-hmm. But even with that said, I appreciate the fun idea around it. Like, I like the idea of putting yourself in that scenario. What would you do if, you had to... hack off your foot or let someone die or something like that, some sort of weird situation like that. And I like this different angle of, like, from the cops' point of view, and and I love Chris Rock. I love the idea
Yeah.
of seeing him in a dramatic cop role. I mean, it sounds really cool. And it was just so boring. It was so hugely boring to me, and it had a lot of the typical cop cliches, which are fine if you do something new with them, and just nothing new was done with it. And yeah, I just couldn't get into it. I thought it was very, very dull.
What about when he broke out into stand-up in a couple of scenes? Or that he had a riff on Forrest Gump, like at the beginning of the movie?
I forgot about that until you said it.
Yeah.
Yes, I can't remember if it was a good routine or not.
I think it was. It just felt like we sat on the remote because it was right after a guy gets his tongue ripped out in the opening scene. I was fine with it, but it's one of those movies like Matrix and like Space Jam 2, honestly, where I was like, I'm kind of enjoying this. I don't think I could disagree with anyone who doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And that was the case with this. I don't remember disagreeing with anything you said in the review when we reviewed it. I was just sort of like, yeah, I was entertained by it. It was nice having this torture back on the big screen.
Yeah, like I said, the bottom's just very meh. Can't get that angry at it yet.
Well, I couldn't get mad at this movie either. My number 8 is Karen.
Oh, God. Oh, my God.
Talk about unsubtle. When the first shot of the movie is like the chalk drawing of Black Lives Matter on the sidewalk, and she just comes out of nowhere, throws water on it, and starts scrubbing it. I don't even know where she is when she's doing this, but it's one of those...
She smells them out. She smells out the Black Lives Matter protest.
She knows where it's at. Yeah, that scene doesn't even get mentioned later in the movie, I don't think, but it's basically like if a Lifetime thriller was trying to be smart, and then in doing that is just dumber than your typical TV thriller. It's trying to be very satirical and have a message, and by doing that, it is just spending the movie explaining to you everything it's doing. A lot of times even just looking at the camera and telling you what it's talking about.
It's such a shame because I think we even did a video where Malcolm hadn't seen the trailer before.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, we're filming your reaction. Oh my God. And you saw him because at first he's like, oh, like this could be good. And then just, and it just got worse and worse the more he watched it. I think that's the same idea. I think everyone's like, if it didn't wink and it didn't try to like spell out the message, it sounds like this could have been a lot of fun. This could have been like, a good way with like, maybe the first legit good meme-sploitation movie.
Yeah,
if it didn't have to try too hard, like you said, explain it to you. Because this is probably the idea that so does not need to be explained.
Oh, and right down to like she has like a Confederate flag soap dispenser, and yeah, it works better if it had just been a fake trailer.
Yeah.
Because you watch that and you're like, oh, that's kind of a funny parody trailer that might be on Saturday Night Live. As a full movie, it's in this weird era now where, and this happens a lot of times, where something is successful, whether it's Halloween or Friday the 13th, in the 90s with Scream, and then you have a wave of knockoffs after it, and some are still fun and some aren't. This is like this post-Get Out wave of movies trying to be like that. And instead of saying anything really provocative, they're just coming across as a tweet. Like, that's exactly what this is. And you don't really need to see the whole thing. You get some drinks together, it could probably work as a bad movie party, but sure, only if you have a few other options. This, from the trailer, you know why it's bad. There's nothing in the full thing, as entertaining as it is, there's nothing in the full thing that's gonna surprise you from just having seen the trailer.
Her name is actually Susie.
I didn't see that twist coming.
My number 7 is Coming to America. The number 2.
Yeah.
America. I love the first movie.
I do too.
I love the shit out of it. And I don't know if I was excited or hesitant, I'm not sure, but seeing the cast back together, I'm like, and the trailer got a few laughs out of me, I'm like, okay, alright. I guess the way it was bad was not the way I was expecting it to be bad. I was expecting a little bit more finger waving, kind of like Karen, like spelling everything out and stuff. Not to say that isn't in there, but that's not what makes it bad. What makes it bad is it just was not funny.
No.
There is definitely a handful of stuff that got a chuckle out of me, or I was like, okay, I didn't expect to laugh at that, but that was pretty good. And everyone's acting fine and everything, but the setups just aren't that great, and they're not that charming either, and they're not clever. They just feel dumb, and the characters do dumb things that, even though these characters are kind of dumb, they wouldn't do these dumb things. And it just didn't become entertaining for me. I know there's a lot of people that like it fine, and it is one of those, like you were saying, like, well, I'm not gonna disagree because it's either laugh at or you don't.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing for me. I just wasn't laughing at it.
Neither did I. I hated this movie. It's not on my bottom 10, but I hated this movie. And I was looking forward to it, because it's not like we're in the middle of a Eddie Murphy slump, like his Meet Dave years and stuff like that. This, he's kind of had a bit of a comeback here recently, especially with Dolomite Is My Name that came out. This has some of the same writers, I think, as that movie. So I went into this kind of looking forward to it. And he is good. Eddie is good. He's not sleepwalking.
All the actors I remember being good,
But I didn't laugh once. I hated it. I really did. And I had rewatched the first one a few days before this one, and it just still holds up.
It's so good.
Funny.
And they are so, again, they're not only so charming, but they are so laugh out loud funny. I mean, they are so great. So many of those jokes still work. And I just wasn't getting that from it. And it's weird me saying I didn't hate it because it's on my worst of list. But again, this is a very meh bottom of the barrel here.
And I did hate it, and it's not on my list. But that's because, well, actually, this one might be on yours too. Trafficked. Remember that movie?
No, I forgot about it.
Forgot about Trafficked? The most hilarious sex trafficking movie ever made.
I was looking through a list. I didn't see it on there. All right, just kicking that down. Put that in. I totally forgot about this movie. I wouldn't put it as number one. I put it where Annette is.
Oh, okay.
Because I do. Even though it is rather funny, I don't think it's the funniest So Bad It's Good movie this year.
This year? I'll have to look at my list again.
Yeah.
It's probably not. No, it's not. Having seen some of the ones higher, but this one was still pretty damn funny.
Yeah, it was.
Like about sex trafficking and these, like, what was it? It was like these pimps are putting these girls in dog cages, but they're talking like they're out of like a sketch on In Living Color.
Yeah. Dean Cain and his one-day filming performance.
And he's still pretty good at it.
Yeah, he's giving it his all.
Yeah, but it's you could tell they had him for a short amount of time, so he's just kind of calling in a few times. They have the
literally phoning it in.
He is, and they have like his crew there because he's trying to find this missing girl. So he has his crew asking the family questions. Then he just calls in every now and then. He's like, "Hey, what's the status update on that? Yeah." All right. Good work.
And doesn't like the father go in with a gun at one point, like the cops going in to save her, and he just decides to grab a gun and try to save her?
That's right. I forgot about that.
Well, one of the reasons I will admit it didn't make me laugh quite as much as what was it, Faith Under Fire?
Faith Under Fire.
Yeah, is this is just a subject matter where I am just, and it's not at all something like, well, I feel this way, so other people should do. Just that subject matter is very, I don't like to think about.
Yeah.
So it is one of those things where I'm watching it, and those scenes are not done well, but they're not done funny enough for me to be, like, laughing out loud at it. I'm more just like, okay, well, this is making me think a little bit about this stuff actually happening, and I don't want to think about that when watching a bad movie. If it's like, hey, we're really going to make you think about this, like, the layers to it, like, well, okay, make it as comfortable as you want, but when you're when it's the guy who did Faith Under Fire, you're not going to get that kind of movie.
I mean, the darker subject matter, that makes it even funnier.
No,
Trafficking, hilarious.
No, see, that's the thing. I'm usually that there's like a handful of things where I just go, I can't. Yeah. Not that I can't find it funny, but it has to be like some of the most brilliant humor on earth in order for me to find it funny. And this is pretty funny, but it's not brilliant funny. It's not even brilliant bad. It's so funny. That it really is for Faith Under Fire, but
yeah,
it is still pretty entertaining.
It was. I wasn't bored by it, but just a lot of the editing, the dialogue, the line delivery. There were so many times in it where I was laughing pretty hard despite the subject matter. Maybe because I don't know, watching so many old exploitation movies, maybe I'm used to dark subject matter being hilarious.
My number 6 is Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I didn't like this movie. I didn't know people hated this movie. Holy shit. Like, this is from the series that brought you, like, the Thorn trilogy and stuff like that. And, like, folks are like, no, fuck Halloween Kills. Like, really? Okay. With that said, I don't like it. It's another one of those where I'm kind of done with a lot of, like, the slasher stuff if they're not going to do anything that interesting.
Yeah.
This doesn't go in a very interesting direction. Jamie Lee Curtis is knocked out of it. I mean, for a movie that in the previous one she was saying it's about empowerment, it's about taking back control, she's just knocked out in a hospital throughout this film. Like, I feel like that's sending kind of a weird mixed message for how big you were trying to make the previous one. But I'm sure it's serving as a second part, you know, and it's like, no, this would be the, whatever, part 3, where she'll be back and kicking ass again, whatever. But the people are so stupid.
Yeah, they are.
Michael Myers, even though we never see his face, the people know what he looks like. It's projected on all the TV screens and stuff, and yet they chase this guy who couldn't look any closer, like even just the physical outline. It's like this short, chubby dude. I think he's like balding or something. Michael Myers is like a fucking giant.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, there's Michael Myers! And everyone chanting "Evil dies tonight" like it's a catchphrase.
Evil dies tonight, bro.
Yeah, like everyone just says this. And, you know, to a point where sometimes it is kind of so bad it's funny. I love the door opening and it hits the woman holding the gun to shoot herself.
That was hilarious.
The only thing I legit really liked about it was one of the few, not only Halloween movies, but slasher movies where when the killer's killing somebody, it's like, man, he's just stabbing people, but it's like the way he's doing it is intimidating. Like, these are some brutal deaths. And, you know, we've seen horror films back and forth or whatever. Something about the way this guy kills, you know, the people in this, it's like, woof. Like, these are some deaths in this Halloween film. I'm like, these are going to stay with me for a little bit. Which, maybe that's why I didn't hate it like a lot of other people did. Because I'm like, well, a slasher film should have memorable kills. And I do really remember the kills in this. But yeah, even when I got to the climax, I was kind of like, oh, what, that's it? I mean, I'm glad we're wrapping up, but that was pretty underwhelming.
Yeah, I didn't dislike it. I was entertained by it. It's another one of those where I'm like, I see all the flaws in this movie. Like, how could you not? They're bright as day in this film. I was entertained by it. I liked the kills. And you're right, Michael Myers was pretty intimidating in the movie. And seeing it that opening night with the packed house kind of made it a little fun. Especially some of those kills, like the girl with the door and shooting herself in the head. That made it entertaining as a theatrical experience. But I am starting to notice, like, if I see something like this, it's like wildly flawed. And I still give it like a B- between this and that last Resident Evil that came out. I'm like, if I'm giving something a B-, I think that means the audience is going to hate it.
That's the magic grade.
It's not the F. There'll be an agreement on the F. A B-, they'll be like, you fucking idiot. Evil dies tonight, bro. This was a weird, like, I wasn't sure if I was going to put this on here, but I was like, well, I guess it does count. Last year, on my bottom 10... This is also a snob episode, too. I reviewed this movie called Assassin 33 AD about the terrorists that get the time machine. They re-released it this year and did a giant re-edit of it. and retitled it Black Christmas. Or not Black Christmas.
Holy shit! If they did that!
Close. Black Easter. Sorry. Okay. Black Easter. They retitled it
Black
Black
Easter. That title's
Easter.
a little better.
Yeah, the Black... It has almost as much to do with Easter. So I was like, do I put this on here? Like, yeah, I should. They did repackage it, re-edit it, and try selling it as a new movie to try to trick my ass going through VOD. Like, this plot sounds familiar. Oh, this is the same movie. Sort of, but they made it more hilarious. They made it worse, but also funnier.
Did they at least take out the talking robot?
Oh. No, man, Rocky vs. Drago's on my best list. They should have been. No, they added more talking in this because they add in narration from the main character. They actually add in stuff like they show them at the beginning that happens later in the movie. And they pause it and do the, yep, that's me.
Oh my god, about time travel to save Jesus?
I bet you're wondering how I got in this situation.
Oh my god.
They have this stupid narration through this, like, that's the hot girl in class, and that dork over there, yep, that's me.
Oh, and the guy being crucified, that's the Son of God.
They might as well do that shit, because there'll be serious stuff that happens in this movie, like the guy's parents dying. He doesn't narrate that, because what the hell would that be like? Like, oh, don't worry, they'll be back later. They just got bullets in their head for right now. My favorite was when it shows the terrorist, the bad guy, into, like, lampshade, I guess, reviews of Assassin 33 AD. The guy gets on there and goes like, now remember, this guy, I'm not mad because he's Muslim, it's because he's an extremist. And brother, there's a difference.
Oh my god.
They add in like dates on there too, in case you're confused. They go back in time and they go like 2,000 years earlier. They put in another ending that sequel baits.
They have the Terminator saying he would be Bach.
That's in the other one too. That kind of happens. Like the guy says to Jesus, it's in both versions, where, no, Jesus walks away from the guy who's talking, and Jesus goes, I'll be back. And the guy goes, I'll be back? Jesus, that ain't even your movie.
Oh my god.
Because right before that, he made a Passion of the Christ reference. Where he says to Jesus, like, I don't want to spoil it for you, Jesus.
Wow. Oh, wow. And I did see your episode. Man, I forgot about all that in there. Oh,
I kind of did too, because this was one. I was like, I know this movie needs to be on this list, but what happened in this? I had to go back and rewatch my review of this, the midnight screenings Jared and I did. I'm like, oh, right, the narration. Okay, yeah, I can remember that. That shit belongs on here.
It's like seeing it for the first time.
It kind of was. Me sitting there, what the hell? Is this a fever dream I'm having? I'm talking about this in the review.
Well, you didn't have it on your list, so I'll put it on mine. Home Sweet Home Alone.
Yeah.
And again, I was actually a little kinder to this movie.
So sad.
I'm sorry, this is a very underwhelming worst of list. It does get better, don't worry. But it's clearly not good.
Yeah.
I did cut it a little slack because the actors in it are very likable actors. And I felt like there's probably a few scenes where they let the actors improvise. And the kid working off of people I thought was okay. I thought he was legit funny. As soon as they get to the actual plot of the kid being left home alone, that's where a lot of it goes downhill. The setup that everybody has brought up, and they said this is what makes it the worst of the Home Alone sequels, and I get that, but it's just not for me, is that the crooks trying to break in are perfectly fine people. They're trying to get in to, like, save their home. They're a charming couple, played by very charming actors, and when they're holding each other crying because this kid is torturing them, that'd be hilarious if Harry and Marv did that. I just got a package, so ignore that. Oh my god, what bandits are outside?
It's Elf!
It'd be hilarious if Harry and Marv were crying, holding each other. But when it's an actual loving couple, you just feel sad. And the kid, when he's on his own, is not that funny. He can't hold a movie, sadly. But I mean, he's a little kid. I mean, again, good enough he was able to work with a lot of these very funny comedic actors. But so I was shocked I was laughing at it as much as I was, but it still clearly doesn't work. There's a lot of lines that don't work. The setup does not work. It clearly did not need to be made. But yes, I didn't hate it as much as everyone else did, but it is... I always want to make it clear, it is a bad movie. It is still a bad movie.
That was what my review was like, too, because I didn't like it either. Like, I gave it a negative review, but I was like you, where I was like, it's bad. It didn't make me mad.
I thought it'd be a lot worse.
I did, too, because I was like, I see what they're trying to do here by... They're trying to change things up a little by making the people breaking into the house kind of the heroes, and the kid is sort of the antagonist in this situation. But for all the reasons you just said, in theory that's fine. It just doesn't work. It's not as funny when you're watching
it. It needed like a dark twist to it. You know, I think Macaulay Culkin was talking on, I think, the commentary for Home Alone, that about Chris Columbus had an idea about Kevin trying to break into the house of the wet bandits. They're like reformed and they're older, and Kevin just grew up and went nuts.
Yeah.
And he legit wanted to make this movie like a dark comedy, and I feel like if they did something like that, it would work. But as Columbus said, they wouldn't let me make that movie though. I wonder why. It's the same thing here. It's like, clearly Fox, Disney would not let someone make that movie and have it actually be dark and twisted, kind of thing.
Is 4 and 5 worse than this one?
So, I don't know if it's a body flip thing or not. In my opinion, 3's the worst.
Oh, okay.
Because 4 and 5 at least are just, by their low bar, they kind of acquit themselves. They're not offensive, they're just kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And both of them have like, that was kind of charming, that was kind of cute. Where 3 really should just know better. You know, like that was released theatrically. It was still written by John Hughes. Now, granted, we both know when you write a movie, people can do whatever they... Once the script is gone, they can do whatever they want to, and so you don't necessarily blame him. But, but this is something that still has that name on it, and they're bringing in, like, secret agents and stuff like that, and it's just like, no, none of this works, and you really should have known better. Where the others gave me exactly what I thought I would get, plus a laugh here and there. So it's like, which I didn't think I would get.
And all of them better than Pups Alone.
Yes.
Speaking of dogs, Rock Dog 2, Rock Around the Park. Oh yeah, they made a sequel to Rock Dog.
I didn't even know Rock Dog 1 was a thing.
Oh, sorry, that's my number 5.
Ah.
There's 4 worse movies than Rock Dog 2, apparently. Yeah, Rock Dog 1 was theatrical. Rock Dog 2 went VOD, and it's the worst movie of 2002. That's about how, it feels like someone's been in a coma for about 20 years, so all their references are really dated. Like the movie should just advertise MySpace in the middle of it. It's your typical plot like this, where the dog becomes a famous rock star, he becomes a narcissist, he gets an ego, he yells at his friends, he kicks his friends out of the band, and learns a lesson, and the villain is literally a wolf dressed as a sheep who's the music producer, and it's so ugly to look at, too.
Okay, that did make me laugh.
Maybe you laugh. I was disappointed it's not called Rock Dog 2, Rock Around the Park. The pun's right there. So...
I'm going to take a wild guess and say this is animated?
It's an animated
Okay, because I'm not gonna lie, I was picturing in my head, well, how do you do that? How did they train the wolf to have the sheep's claw? I'm like, oh, this is like a Sing scenario. Okay.
If we can train a dog to play basketball and all the other sports Air Bud does, it's a fair question this day and age to ask if the Rock Dog is live action or not.
If we can get him to set up traps in Pups Alone, why can't this be a
Teach
thing?
him to play guitar.
Yeah.
The animated one does just fine. No, it's an ugly animated movie, too. The colors aren't good. There's a lot of copying and pasting with how everyone in this town looks. I would say it's weird there's this sequel to Rock Dog, but there's like 5 Norm of the North movies, so maybe this makes sense. This was another one where I had to rewatch the review to see what I thought of this. Well, to see why I didn't like it, not whether or not I didn't like it.
My number 4 is Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Yeah, I didn't even get into the first Venom film that much, so the idea of bringing in actors I really like and doing a good job and just having them do almost nothing throughout the film did kind of piss me off. Especially I was getting to a point where I was almost laughing at it, you know, with a fair amount, just how, like, bad it was, like Woody Harrelson's dubbing in the intro and stuff, and how quickly they moved the plot along from just talking to a cellmate to, they're taking me away. What? They're taking me away right now. What? Because of my mutant powers. Why? Yeah, because I have the shriek. Gets in the ambulance, shrieks, gets the thing tossed over, and then she escapes, and the guy goes crazy. Like, it was one of those where I'm like, all right, I'm going to have a good time at least. Like, this is going to be fun. And then it just goes into the regular thing the first Venom movie did, which, again, it's like, I like the character Venom, so I don't like when he's not done well in a movie, but at least I was looking forward to laughing at how bad it was. And parts of it are entertaining because, like I said, the actors are so entertaining. Like, every actor in that movie is, like, great. And looked great and did their part great, but they just didn't give them anything to do for such build-up. Let there be carnage. The character's name is Carnage.
There's no carnage.
Yeah, he barely does a thing, and not to ruin the ending, but it doesn't look like they're going to do anything else with him, and Maximum Carnage is like, I didn't read a ton of Spider-Man comics, but I read that, and I love the shit out of it, so I was looking forward to at least in a sequel doing something with him, or with Spider-Man and Venom, whatever, and it doesn't look like they're going to do that, so I thought it was pretty lame and underwhelming, and there's a couple scenes where you can laugh at how bad it is, but I just couldn't get into it.
I didn't like it either. I mean, I was thankful it was only 90 minutes, because a movie like this could have been like 220, 215.
Yeah.
But it's one of those where it's like the first movie was a hit, but critics didn't like it all that much, and instead of, well, let's try to maybe fix what was criticized about the other one, no, just because the other one, it made a lot of money, so this one, like, alright, well, let's do the first one again, but everything that was not good about the first one, let's do it more.
Well, and something that people brought up, and it is one of those things where I go, okay, fair enough, because I got this for other things too. A lot of people said they liked it because it felt like an early 90s movie. It had all these early 90s cliches. That's fair, because there's a lot of movies I like. Well, I like kind of the 80s cliches, or I like kind of these retro cliches, even though I know they're bad, but that's part of the fight. You know, Space Jam 2. You know, that's the reason that's not on this list, because we like these cliches, and we feel they're using them creatively. The cliches that the Venom movies use, I hate these cliches. I can't stand it. If you threw in, like, a liar revealed story or a misunderstanding on top of that, which they kind of do the more I think about it, it would have, like, every cliche I absolutely despise, with almost nothing new added at all. So I think that's why, because when a lot of people say, oh, but I like it, come on, you like your own cliches, it's like, fair enough, I do get that. These are just happen to be the cliches that I absolutely had. I hated them when they first came out, and I hate them now.
Yeah, and I could tell it would have its audience, because when I reviewed it, and I was saying what I didn't like about it, which was all of that, there was a lot of feedback that was going, you actually sold me on this movie.
Yeah, no, and it's like, again, fair enough. Like, if you love it, that's awesome, you know. This just happens to be a stuff that, like, drives me up a wall.
Yeah. There is a lot of carnage in my number 4, because my number 4 is Roe v. Wade.
Oh.
I was like, oh right, that did officially come out in 2021. I saw that like 2 years ago, because I was a test audience for it.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, like, if I remember you talking about it.
Yeah, I was a test audience for this movie, and it's kind of what started the Brad ruins Rob's day thing. He didn't see it, but I did. I'm like, Rob, I was an audience member for this movie. I got to tell you about this. We, like, filmed it and everything. It's not a terribly made movie. Like, I've seen movies in this genre for this target audience that are way worse made than this one is. the acting is terrible in
Yeah.
this. Yeah, the acting's really, really bad in it. It is a lot of, like, really straw-man-y stuff that you do expect in one like this, but it's somehow even funnier in this, where you got pro-life professor Joey Lawrence, who is teaching his
oh no, you sold me on that alone.
Yeah, I'm gonna sell a lot of people with this one too. He's like debating his students.
Are you for this? No.
Oh, he's debating his students, and he's like, well, if someone had like a birth defect, would you want them to be aborted? And his students are like, yeah. And he goes, oh yeah, well, you just killed Beethoven. And I'm going, wait, I don't think he was born deaf, was he? Like, what? Later, would you shoot him in the head or something? Like, there's a song and dance. There's a sing-along in this movie about abortion.
That's right.
The plot is it's taking place in the 70s.
Did you review this? Like, do a snob review?
I did.
Okay, I was saying
I did
this
a snob episode on it. And it's about two guys who want to legalize abortion so they could make a bunch of money with abortion clinics and everything. And so they are really into abortion, to where they're sitting around with their family. It's Nick Loeb, who also, like, I think he co-directed the movie, and Jamie Kennedy, and they're sitting around with their family, and they got the piano there, so of course you break out the piano, you're singing, you're going, there's abortion in abortion. I will always remember that about this movie.
The abortion rag.
Yeah, oh, and Jamie Kennedy does do an accent like that throughout this whole movie. Like, I'm pretty sure he thinks he's in a comedy. He kind of is. Watch the snob episode on it. There was a lot of material in this film.
My number 3, I don't even know. This is when we get... My number 3 is where you get into the so bad they're good movie, and this is my kind of trash. A Castle for Christmas. Did you see this?
Oh, is that the Carrie Elwes one? I did see that. I got a screener for that movie.
Oh my god, isn't that...
Yeah.
I mean, this is so... When I was talking about slasher films and, like, yeah, these... cliches, just I get why people like them. They just don't hit me. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
Christmas rom-coms, I think they're very similar to slasher films because they are such similar like marks and tropes that they have to hit. And for me, Christmas rom-coms are just a little funnier, maybe because I love Christmas. I love Halloween too, but I love Christmas so much. And something about Christmas rom-coms really do celebrate the atmosphere of Christmas more than, for whatever reason, Halloween movies do. Like, there's very few I can think of where, like, you know, like Trick or Treat really does.
Halloween 3 does.
Yeah, Halloween 3 really does. But there's not that many where with Christmas rom-coms it's like a requirement you have to. Yeah. And, like, Christmas has to look nice in your Christmas rom-com, so I love that.
Yeah.
But this one you got... it's your main leads, which is already like, huh? Brooke Shields and Carrie Elwes are the romantic leads in this. Carrie Elwes, for whatever baffling reason, faking a Scottish accent, which is horrendously bad. And Carrie Elwes has one of the most magnificent accents. I don't know why they keep trying to cover them up in these movies, because A, he's not very good at it, and B, he has this heavenly accent already. Yeah. But by far the funniest is his Scottish accent in this. It is so hilarious, and it's one of those movies where you can tell they know what they're making, they're gonna have fun with it, and they do. But with that said, they're making a bad movie, so I'm gonna knight it a bad movie and put it on this list. With that said, I recommend the shit out of it. If you're one of those people that love seeing horrible Christmas rom-coms, this is definitely one of those where it is so bad, it's good. They know it, and they don't wink too hard. They wink just the right amount. A good, bad Christmas rom-com should.
Yeah, and you and I both know, you combine Christmas with Carrie Elwes, you're gonna get a so bad it's good movie. Yeah. So one might be a slasher film. Yeah. Sort of.
So yeah, it's up there, but I'm definitely recommending the shit out of it.
I do too. I had fun watching it too. Like, I'm exactly like you with Christmas and those kind of movies. So I didn't. I asked for a screener for that. Like, I knew I figured I wasn't going to review it, but I was like, I still want to watch it. So I'm like, can I have a screener for this movie? Here. My number 3. This wasn't so bad. It's good. This was bad. It was Kitty Mamas.
I don't know that one.
It sounds like it should be so bad it's good. It's not. It's a movie. It's a comedy about a doctor who creates this serum that will make women give birth to kittens. I don't know why he wants to invent this. When the movie Junior with Arnold makes way more sense with its plot. This one is, look, we got this drug. You can give birth to kittens if you want. And these women are like, totally. And it's done like a mockumentary. Like, it's trying to be like The Office or Parks and Rec or something. So it's done mockumentary style. It's really dry. It's rambly. I think a lot of it's probably improv. And the jokes in it are really obvious. Like, the girls will be sitting there pregnant and they'll start acting like a cat. One's like, I used the litter box the other day. It's that for like 90 minutes or an hour 40 minutes, however long it was.
That sounds pretty bad.
It was. I went into I didn't think it was going to be good when I went into it, but a plot like this and a title like that, I'm like, maybe this will cross over into like So Bad It's Good. It actually was like Junior in a way, where it's like the movie you're picturing in your head
is not what you get.
Yeah, you're getting this kind of boring, really dry movie that's not that fun to sit through. It's way more fun to just describe the movie. I hated this. It was awful.
Never even heard of it, man. I guess that's why.
Kitty Mamas.
My number 2, and I don't know if I'm going to get flack for this or whatever, Eternals.
Oh, you won't get flack for that.
Because this, and again, I think I'm the only person on the planet, man. I might be the only person that thinks it's so bad it's good.
Oh.
I am, but I always say it is a subtle bad. Because again, if you were to show any 5 minutes of this movie as a clip, you can watch online, it's fine, it looks perfectly fine. When you watch it all together and you see how it's laid out and how it keeps jumping back and forth between time periods, and they're just acting like they're showing what's happening in the other room, the way everyone acts so stoic, yet they talk about how they're family, yet they never show any emotion to each other.
Yeah.
The way, like, the cave people in the opening have just blank faces, even though these monsters are heading right towards them, and there's a father and a son. Son has a blank face. Father turns, run. And the giant monster just eats him like a shark from eating Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
From, what the fuck was that movie?
Oh, Deep Blue Sea?
Yeah, like a shark eating Samuel L. Jackson from Deep Blue Sea. And the kid still has like no reaction, maybe like that. It feels like it's comedic timing.
Yeah.
But it's not. There's you got these lasagna creatures that look like they expired or whatever, and they're just trying to eat people like Zool dogs or whatever. And one scene like kills a guy, which you're then told, oh, you're supposed to care about that person. But then suddenly the Zool dog forms a human face as, suddenly I know what my purpose is. That was the plan all along. I must go. It flies off and it's like, oh wait, what was that? What's happening? And then they're like, let's mourn this person. Okay. And then they walk off and there's another death scene of like this major character early on, but it's told out of order, where I didn't even know the character was dead or who was dead. You just enter this house and they say blank is dead. I'm like, it's like a league of their own. Who's blank? I don't even know who that is. And then they cut to a scene where the person's alive, like with, a person that's in the house. I'm like, wait, well, okay, so that can't be blank because that person's alive. And then it shows it was like a hallucination, a hologram or something to remember the person being alive. And I'm like, oh, this movie's a disaster and I love it. I absolutely had a ball, but I can say I was the only person in the theater laughing.
I laughed a couple of times in it. I didn't care that much for it, but it's one of those movies where it's like, yeah, I gave it a negative review, but I did respect the movie because it was ambitious.
No, and I respect it was trying to be more adult. It was trying to grow up the Marvel formula. It's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
And the actors, again, if you were to watch clips of them, you wouldn't say they're bad. Yeah. But when you see it all together and you just see how much these characters are not working off each other and they just keep to that stoic way of talking, it made me laugh so hard.
Angelina Jolie seemed like she was on not give a shit about in this, and not in like a batshit fun way. In like I kept forgetting she was there.
Yeah, then she has a thing where it's like she's suddenly possessed and acts crazy, and then you forget that was even a thing.
Oh yeah.
But that stuff made me laugh really, really hard. And I don't know, it's one of those where I'm always like, should I do like a more detailed review of it just to show people what I'm talking about? But I don't know if I can because you really need to see it all as a whole. Because it is something where when you show it in clips, that's not what works, what makes it funny. You have to watch it all together to get the comedy of it. Or maybe I'm just insane because, like I said, I haven't heard anyone else that had the same reaction as that. But I had a ball.
I was glad I saw it because, again, like I said, like it wasn't good, but it's like it was trying to think outside the box.
No, it was. I respect it
from formula. It's weird because it's like I gave like Shang-Chi like a higher grade than this because it was more entertaining and it worked better. But I respected this one more because it was trying to do some things different.
Yeah, no, Shang-Chi was very by the numbers, but it did those numbers well.
Yeah.
Where this one's trying to do something different, it's trying some different numbers, but the final equation, the final sum didn't add up. They did the math wrong. But they were trying to do it in a unique way.
Yeah, they did. I respect that. These think outside the box. My number 2 is a tie. Because they're both kind of sold as a double feature, sort of. Daniel Farrens, who directed The Haunting of Sharon Tate and the Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson, had 2 movies in 2021. One, this is the main reason for putting it number 2. One is Ted Bundy, American Boogeyman, where Chad Michael Murray plays Ted Bundy. But it's done as a slasher film. And I knew that was going to be the case going in, because the director of this has made some really good slasher movie documentaries. He loves his slasher movies, as do I. So going into this, I was like, I know what this is going to be. This is going to be like Ted Bundy as a slasher killer. That's what it is, especially when it gets to where he kills the sorority girls. It turns into like Sorority House Massacre. Yeah. And just rips off the end of Halloween, where the investigator, dressed like Dr. Loomis, she sees Ted Bundy's car.
Oh, is she bald too?
No, she's not. But she sees Ted Bundy's car out front, like Dr. Loomis seeing the car Michael Myers was driving. He's like, oh shit, Ted Bundy's in there. Goes in there, shoots Ted Bundy away from the girls, and then he escapes like Michael Myers at the end of that movie.
She on the ground, and then she looks out again, just not there.
That would make more sense, because in this, the cops and everyone's out front, Ted Bundy's walking in the lawn, as if the cops don't see the guy standing right fucking there. Then he just walks off into the woods. The title card's like he's later caught. And then he did, so that one is my main reason for putting these 2 at number 2, because the other one the director did was also really bad, but more kind of a mediocre bad. He did another one that was Eileen Wuornos, American Boogie Woman. Okay. And it asked the important question, what if Eileen Wuornos was way hot?
Get out of my head, director! What?
It's one of the girls from Cobra Kai plays Eileen Wuornos in this.
I bet I know the exact one. Is it the one that is kind of the enemy of Daniel's daughter?
Yeah.
Okay, I knew it. I'm like, just as soon as you said that, I know the exact actress it's gonna be.
She's not bad in the movie, but it's I don't believe she's Eileen Wuornos. They have another actress playing Eileen at the beginning of the film, in jail, and they have makeup on her to make her look like Charlize Theron playing the part, even kind of doing an impression as well. So this was about like a short time where Eileen was married to this rich guy for like a very short time. The older guy in the movie is played by Tobin Bell, who's Jigsaw, and it plays out like a Lifetime thriller. Like she's this Black Widow killer who marries into this rich guy, then beats him with a cane and leaves. Like it was. The Ted Bundy one was my main reason for putting these two on there. This one kind of played out just sort of like you're watching a Lifetime thriller. And weirdly, I think it's probably the director's best movie, but it still sucked.
Number one, and I cannot emphasize more, you should see this movie. It's the worst I saw this year, but I love the everlasting shit out of it. Old. And that Shyamalan's old. Oh my god, I just did a nostalgia critic of it, and as soon as you said, like, we're doing a worst of list, I'm like, oh, I don't know what I put out here. Oh, old has to be, like, number one, or it's got to be high up there, and I was looking through, I'm like, nope, this one brought me so much joy. So much joy.
I loved it too.
Oh god, it is all the stuff I love about bad Shyamalan. I mean, just constantly, continually, throughout the whole thing. Like, none of it is boring. None of it is uninteresting. Everything gets a laugh. Every line that everybody says is written a little wrong, and said a little wrong, and shot a little wrong, but it's all done so passionately a little wrong. I never feel like he's half-assing it. If anything, I feel like he's always thinking in his head, this is going to be brilliant, man. Brilliant. And it's like, I don't know, weird part of me is like, good on him, because he's clearly enjoying these movies. And he's loving the hell of them, and a lot of them seem to make a fair amount of money. They entertain the hell out of a big fan base, man. I mean, like, we love these movies. And when he does bad, they are so unique, but there is something almost kind of charming and endearing about these mistakes. Where, again, you can almost get in the mindset. It's like watching an Ed Wood movie. You can see what he's trying to do, and isn't it charming and in a strange way understandable how he just missed it? Like, where Ed Wood, he's trying to do what all these other people did, you know, in alien movies, where with Shyamalan, he's trying to do what all these other, like, artistic masters did, you know, like Hitchcock or something like that, or Kubrick. And you can tell he's trying to emulate, he's trying to do the same thing, but he doesn't know why they do it in those movies. And so he'll do it at random moments, like the really long shots that go on way too long, or kind of the cold, stoic acting that is just off in the funniest way. I don't know, if I ever had a chance to, like, watch him direct a movie, I would love that. I would love to see, how is he getting that performance out of that good an actor? I am fascinated by this, because there's so many good actors in his movies, and they all give those performances. There's only one or two who are able to, like, sort of jump over that hurdle. But then I'll have him say something that's so strange, or do something that's so strange, like River Sewell, who's doing a pretty good job in this. He's actually pretty convincing, saying these weird lines, but, like, he'll have him do something like ramble on, who is the Jack Nicholson, Marlon Brando movie? What was that? Do you remember that? Do you remember that? Like, he'll be, like, rambling about that, and it's like, nope, even he couldn't be saved from the Shyamalan, whatever, that waves, and suddenly everybody acts weird. I loved it. And the idea, it's a good idea, too, of people actually getting older within, like, minutes. Which a part of me does go, oh, yeah, I do wish I could see that done, like, by a legit, you know, a more talented director, I guess, you know, that actually could understand the source material more and do it dramatically in a way that works. But if it's not going to be done well, at least it's not going to be done well right. You know what I mean? Like, he does it in such a spectacularly off way that I can't help but love the shit out of it. So, yeah.
I did too. I was entertained, but because I love him as a director, because whether you're getting a great movie from him or one that's not, I still want to see where it goes. Like, it's still giving me something I haven't seen before, whether it's something great or something not. This one was like a mixture of stuff that was working and stuff that really wasn't. But like, so you'd have like weird choices in it, like the character who's the rapper whose rap name is Mid-Sized Sedan. Oh my god! But when I was watching it, I was going, I still want to know where this story goes, like what the explanation is, how this is going to play out. I was still along for the ride, and then when it was over, I'm like, yeah, I guess that explanation works. Sure, fine. I was glad I saw it. Like most of it, even when it's one that I don't care that much for, or in this case, I think I gave it kind of a medium. I might have given this a C+ or a B-. I can't remember, because I was like, I am entertained by this, flaws and all. I want to see where this goes.
Yeah, and I don't know, the only one I can think of, I should say two. 1.5. The only one I couldn't get into, or I'm like, this is just boring, is probably Last Airbender.
Or After Earth.
After Earth I thought was pretty funny. And a good chunk of The Village I wasn't getting into.
Yeah.
That I thought was a little dull. But, yeah, like, I don't know, 95% of his movies, again, whether they're good or bad, always hugely entertaining, and I want to see them all. I want to see everything he does.
Yeah, same. The Servant's pretty good.
I never did see that one.
I maybe
nobody did.
It's an Apple TV show. And granted, I've only seen like a handful of. Recently watched a handful of episodes from the first season, so I don't know if it goes off the rails or not. First handful of episodes I saw were pretty decent. My number one is not watchable at all, even as a bad movie. It's the COVID Killer.
I've never heard of this one.
I loved it until I got COVID. Now I don't love it anymore. No, it was bad before. So this is a movie.
They say it makes your taste disappear, not your taste in movies.
Exactly. If anything, I taste bad movies even worse now. This one, the plot is honestly not terrible. Like, the plot is that because of the mask mandate in New York, now this killer is like, I can walk around with a mask on? Sweet! And it goes around killing people. It doesn't make any sense when you watch the movie, because I couldn't tell what was going on in this, because the soundtrack drowns out everybody's dialogue, so I couldn't hear shit. Half the time, they're just doing stuff like, I don't know, let's just go into this strip club and film people stripping for 10 minutes. Sure, that'll pad out the running time, like the 10 minutes of opening credits, or the sex scene in the movie that I think might be real. I'm not sure. I might be wrong. I could be wrong. But it feels like you're watching one of the fake movies and It's Always Sunny where Frank just has a sex scene halfway through it.
Well, they're definitely gonna get COVID then.
Yeah. But the thing is like, okay, so that's the plot of the movie, but no one in it is really wearing a mask except the killer, so the killer's still standing out, going around killing people. And then there's a copycat killer because of this, but you can still tell the difference between the two of them, because they're wearing masks that you can get for like 10 cents at any store. So you know right away who's who. You can pick out who the killer is because they're walking around with short sleeve shirts. You can see their tattoos on their arms. This movie made no sense. I watched it the same day I watched Pups Alone.
What a double feature.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, and Pups Alone was the way better choice. This one, I couldn't stand this. It was annoying. And like, it's bad enough that the soundtrack is drowning out everything they say, but it's a terrible soundtrack. So it's like you're trying to watch this already bad movie if the neighbors next to you are blasting their damn music and it all sucks. Everything
if they're playing the Back to the Future Nintendo game really loud.
I knew this was going to be my number one, because I think it's the only movie I gave an F2 this year. It was awful, but yeah, so that's all mine on there. I didn't have to rewatch my review for that one.
It left its impact, much like how COVID did.
That's how I got COVID.
By watching the movie?
The movie's that bad. I should not have watched it in 4D, where the movie sneezes on you and gives you all of its diseases. We ended on a high note. Yes, lesson learned. Don't watch that movie. It'll make you very sick. All right, well, thanks a bunch for watching, everyone. And, well, we got to take the next year and watch 20 more bad movies.
Yeah, so
See ya.
later.